Hi, welcome to the Gunport channel. Today, I'm going to do a review of the CZ455. Now, if you know me, I love CZ firearms. I think they make top-notch, high-quality guns at a very affordable price. I don't think there's another rimfire rifle out there that can touch this thing as far as accuracy and quality unless you go up to an Anschutz or even a Cooper Arms of Montana rimfire rifle. Now, if you don't know what Cooper is, Cooper's a pretty high-end gun. We're talking over $2,000. And the Anschutz, the gun itself runs around $1,700 for a similar caliber. This one here in particular is the 17 HMR, one of my favorite all-time guns and one of my favorite all-time rounds. Let's talk about some of the pros and cons of owning this rifle. But the very first thing I want to talk about is a pro, and that's the price on this gun. The price currently on this gun right here, on the CZ455 Varmint, is $497 US for the 17 HMR and the 22 WMR, or better known as the 22 Magnum. The 22 long rifle version of this is going to run around $469. So you're going to save some money there if you go with the 22. If that's what you're looking for. The main thing though is I really wouldn't worry about the caliber. These guns are not easy to come by. You're not going to walk into your everyday Dick's Sporting Goods or you know, just one of your big box retailers and find these. Now some of them are starting to carry them. I noticed Cabela's is starting to carry some of these CZs. But the reason I really wouldn't worry about caliber so much is you can go right on CZ USA's website, buy another barrel for it and a magazine for about $150 to $200, somewhere in that ballpark. And that's really not bad considering that it takes literally like 5 minutes to swap this barrel out and put a 22 WMR on there or even a 22 long rifle. It's extremely easy to change barrels, and they made it that way on purpose. Now, you would have to actually, if you bought a 22 model right off the bat, you're going to have to take out a little insert. But once you take the action out, it's no more than pushing a pin out, and this little insert drops out and makes way for the bigger magazines for like the 17s and the 22 Magnums. So that's not really that big of a deal if you can't find the actual caliber that you're looking for right off the bat. Now, some places actually sell barreled combos. Now, I've not seen them in the Varmint, which is going to have the heavier contoured barrel. I've seen them in the American, which is your standard sporter barrel, your pencil barrel, more or less. You'll see those where you get like a 2-barrel kit. You'll get like 17 and 22 long rifle typically. They don't typically ship with 2 Magnum calibers. Most of the time they're going to be in your 22 long rifle and 17 HMR. Matter of fact, I've not even seen a set that's came with 22 long rifle and say 22 Magnum. It's always been 22 long rifle and 17. And I think one reason is the popularity of those 2 rounds. The 17 is extremely popular amongst rimfire shooters, and so is the 22 long rifle. Whereas the 22 Mag, for the time being, it's kind of taken a back seat, and people just really ain't out there to you know, they're not willing to go out and buy them as much as they are the other one. You got the 17, which totally outperforms it. But let's get back on track here and talk about some of the pros. There's only 2 cons I have with this gun. Only 2 things that I didn't like about it right out of the box. And they were easy to fix. And I mean, it was really easy to fix. So one of the main pros on this gun is barrel thickness. This thing has an extremely thick and free-floated barrel, fully free-floated. When you start looking at 17 HMR rifles and you're looking at some of the other brand names, some of the competitors out there, the barrel diameter is usually about 0.75 inches in diameter, or 3/4 of an inch. With the CZ here, it runs at 0.866, so it's about 7/8 of an inch in diameter. So it's a much thicker barrel than what you're going to see on some of the competitors' heavy barreled 17s. And where that makes the difference is really is vibration and resonance of the barrel. So, you know, when you fire any gun, the barrel kind of vibrates like this, okay? And the thicker the barrel is, obviously, the less vibration, or the better it's going to be able to absorb that vibration. and also it will help it dissipate heat better. Now, I'm not saying that the 17 HMR is going to crank out a ton of heat like a 22-250 is, but it does get hot. And as that metal heats up, it does want to whip a little bit more and vibrate a little bit more. It's not really a big deal when we're talking about this particular caliber, but it does help out somewhat. I don't know if the gains that you receive from it are really that important or that good, but it does help. Now, like I said, the barrel is 100% fully free floated here. So, as you can see, all the way down to the receiver, no problems at all. So it's 100% fully free floated. The stock on it itself is actually made out of Turkish walnut, which is extremely beautiful. I don't know if the camera can pick it up here. Maybe I'll take some photos and put them in this video so you can see the actual grain, the wood grain in it. The wood grain on it is amazing. I'm very impressed with it. The bluing on the gun is absolutely amazing. Now let's talk about the cons. Right off the bat, this gun comes with a weaver, or without a weaver type of mount. It comes with an 11mm dovetail. Okay? An 11mm dovetail, especially when you're going up to a scope that has a 30mm tube like this one, it is really hard to find 11mm to 30mm scope rings. There's companies out there that make them, but they're hard to find, and then your selection as far as height is pretty limited. So one of the things that I like to do, and I did it on both of my 455s, is CZ USA sells an adapter. It's an 11mm to weaver adapter, and it basically just slides on there. You got 4 Allen screws that you torque down. I torqued mine down to like 25 inch-pounds a piece, and I used blue Loctite on them. So this adapter hasn't moved. I've had the gun about 6 months, and I've shot quite a few rounds out of it, and it hasn't moved at all. Not only that, it almost acts like a slight riser. It gives you a little bit more height. So when we're talking about height on a scope like this Vortex here, this is a Vortex Viper HS, and this is a 2.5 by 10 or 2.5 to 10 by 44 HS. It has a big ocular bell on it, and one of the problems you get sometimes when you're mounting a scope like this on a small rifle is that the bolt doesn't have enough clearance there. Okay, and so just by adding that adapter on there, that gave me that little bit of extra height I needed to clear the bolt handle. And it's the same way on my other 455 thumbhole. I had the same adapter on it. I used the same height rings and everything, and I got a 50mm scope on that one. As far as the objective, the ocular bell itself is the same exact size. Okay, the other downside to this gun was the trigger. Right out of the box from the factory, the trigger is adjustable. I was able to take it down to a minimum of I think 3.5 pounds is as low as it would go. Now for some people that's absolutely fine, but for me, I'm kind of a trigger snob. You know, you may say 3.5 pounds is absolutely fine. The gun's intended purpose is a hunting rifle. So, I mean, it's one of those deals that you have to kind of weigh out, you know, that on your own. Do I want a 3.5 pound trigger, or do I want to make it better? And most of the time, most people are going to want to make the trigger better. So as I do with all my CZ rifles, I use a Yo-Dave spring and shim kit. I put a Yo-Dave spring and shim kit in this gun. Now, my primary purpose for this gun is a bench rest gun and just plinking around casually. So I'm not really worried about carrying it off into the woods or anything like that. So I have my trigger extremely light on this gun. Right now I have the trigger spring adjusted all the way down at its lowest setting, and I have a shim in here. And with that shim and the trigger spring, this trigger breaks at 8 ounces. So a half a pound. It breaks at a half a pound instead of 3.5 pounds. It's extremely light, okay? I wouldn't recommend doing that and getting it down that low. I mean, I can close the bolt on the gun hard, flip the safety on and off, but if I bump it it's going to fire. Now that's not something that I would recommend doing at all. It's unsafe. One way I like to test for accuracy with 17 HMR and 22 rifles is do a 100-yard card cut. Now, I've done this with a Savage. I've done it with the CZ 455 and 22 long rifle. I'm going to do it with the CZ 455 Varmint 17 HMR. So I already have a card in place over here. Now, obviously, it's an extremely accurate gun. I was shooting this out of the gun, and the current price that I paid for it locally was that much. Now, this is pretty good ammo for 17 HMR ammo, as far as that goes. As you've seen it right there, it's extremely accurate. I'm not really for sure how many times I cut the card, or how many times I actually hit the card on edge like this. But I'll get to see it here in a minute when I go back to the footage. I do know I cut it in half though, because I seen it fly off here, and of course after that I came down here, and so I'm pretty happy with the results. If you like what you've seen today, please subscribe, and thank you for watching the Gun Pour channel.